this computer. Okay, Ingrid, so let's talk about setting the strategy for LinkedIn. Now, as I said before, the exciting thing about LinkedIn is that it is a tool, a magnificent, super powerful tool that's often misunderstood. And we've both shared our story of how we got onto LinkedIn and why we got onto LinkedIn, and we were both like clueless at the beginning. I like to use the
Some of
analogy.
us clueless for a bit longer than others.
I like to use the analogy of this tool because I'm quite a visual person, is imagine it, you know, those amazing Men in Black movies that, you know, Will Smith, Men in Black, and they had these incredible, or a Bond movie, a James Bond movie where they has, you know, there's the silver pen or this amazing gadget, which is not actually a pen. It can freeze time and erase your memory. And it's not actually a gadget. It, you know, can cover you in invisible smoke or what have you. That's really what LinkedIn is. I encourage anybody who doesn't understand it to consider that it's such a super powerful tool with all these different functions that creates overwhelm to it, but it's misunderstood. It is completely misunderstood. And most people are kind of lugging around this heavy pen, thinking it's just a pen, and they're using it like a pen, when in actual fact, it can be programmed to do phenomenal stuff. So a little bit of fun to begin with, that here we have in our hands this phenomenal tool. Now, the way that I structure the making sure that we don't feel like LinkedIn's telling us what to do, we don't end up becoming a slave to LinkedIn, because you open the platform and it immediately starts showing you, you know, the little red trigger notification on the notifications, and you think, oh, I must go there and do that, and then it says you must do this, and do you want to, you know, it starts telling us stuff that we need to do, because that's how super powerful it is. But we don't need to listen to it. It needs to listen to us, and we set the strategy. And here's how we're going to do that. Firstly, we're just going to talk about everything that we are doing on LinkedIn, and all the stuff that we're putting out in programming is just for the next 90 days. This is not for life. It's not for marriage. It's just 90 days. And then we're going to measure the results that you get over the next 90 days. And the reason why I choose 90 days, you know, 3 months, a quarter, is because nothing's going to happen overnight. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all extremely busy, and we've got ebbs and flows and busy times in our business. If we give ourselves a bit of a long runway of 3 months, one, it feels more manageable, but two, it's easier to then look at the analytics, because LinkedIn's dashboard and analytics gives you incredible insights that most people don't understand how to use or look at. But the one thing about LinkedIn is it will give you a reading of who's viewed your profile on the premium account over the next 90 days. So I've kind of taken my cue from that, and also used 3 months as a nice litmus test for an entrepreneur who's learning something new. Does that make sense?
That sounds amazing, Lisa, because I think, you know, for me, certainly, when I've looked at LinkedIn in the past, it's almost like the way a lot of people view a website. It's kind of there to give all your information. But from what I'm beginning to understand now, there are lots of tools and features within LinkedIn that can be used. And I love the 90 days because it just feels like, okay, I can actually do this. It's kind of more manageable. So I'm really excited about that. And so, yes, I'm all in. I wanted to ask a quick question, Lisa, because obviously I've got my personal LinkedIn profile, and now we're going to be setting up my business page as such. I'm not on a premium account. Is it called Premium Pro,
Yes,
LinkedIn Pro, is it?
premium account. So a great question. I know exactly what you're going to ask, is do I need to have that? And my feeling, to my best advice to begin with, is not straight away. Like, let's get you set up on LinkedIn on the free account. Let's get all the functionality. You can create a company page. You can use most of the stuff that I'm going to teach you on the free account. When you're really seeing the value and the benefit, and you're starting to get those requests and those leads, and the visibility is working for you, definitely a premium account is worth its weight in gold, because it shows you who's looked at your LinkedIn profile. Now, just consider that. All the other social media platforms that our businesses are on, nobody can tell it. Instagram and Facebook can't tell us who's looked at our profile. Now, imagine what An interesting situation that would be if you could actually see who had looked at your Instagram profile and who had looked at your Facebook profile. LinkedIn gives you that information, but you get it on the free, but on the paid for, the premium, you get it for 90 days. Now, the one thing about the premium, seeing as you raised the question now, is that LinkedIn's very good at tricking us into thinking that we need to pay premium. There are three types of premium. There's job seeker premium, there's so they call that job seeker. Sometimes they call that career navigator. It changes language, but it's the one that's available for people looking for a job. Then there's a kind of business navigator premium, which is about using LinkedIn to actually advertise and post positions on. And then there's a really like enterprise level premium, which is incredibly expensive. Now, every single person only needs the job seeker level premium because that's the cheapest and that's what you go for. But then LinkedIn says to you, what are you using LinkedIn for? And we'll all say, for our business, we're an entrepreneur. Are you using it to look for a job? No. And then they suddenly take you to the business premium, which is double the price of the job seeker premium. So the only premium you want is the career seeker, job seeker premium. That's it.
Great,
Okay.
great. And Lisa, so if you take out that premium package on your personal account, does that transfer automatically to your business
Yes.
page?
Yes.
And if
So
you have more
your
than one business page, it'll transfer to both,
Yes,
or
yes,
however. Okay,
absolutely. So
okay, awesome.
a business page can only be created if you have a personal account. LinkedIn values personal accounts. We all, in our own right, need to create a personal profile in our name. We can then create multiple company pages, but a company page cannot exist without a personal profile.
Okay,
Next
perfect.
thing about
Same as Facebook, actually.
Yes. Next thing about setting the strategy then is that firstly, it's going to be 90 days. And I want you to consider in the next 3 months, because we're starting now, what is a realistic cadence that you can consistently show up on LinkedIn for at least half an hour, if not an hour, frequently in the week. So, in other words, you might say to me, well, Lisa, it's crazy, but I can spend a good hour once a week dedicated on LinkedIn. That's a starting block. I would suggest that if you want to really get some mileage out of it over the next 3 months, you should at least select two different times. So, one at the beginning
Yeah.
of the week and maybe one on the weekend. And I'm going to show you what you're going to do in that time. This is not scrolling the home feed because that's what LinkedIn does. It opens into the home feed. This is being strategic and using it in the three different programming areas. So if you can choose your cadence minimum of once a week, up to as much as 7 times a week, which I think is a bit insane. I don't think anyone wants to be on it every single day in a week, but I do have some entrepreneurs who say, I've got 3 months of cash to get me off, to get me up and running, and then I need to start making some money. So it really just depends. And I think therein lies the inherent opportunity as here is the world of LinkedIn. How much you want to spend on it strategically, it will reward you back with the results. So there's that to consider. So it's a 90-day process. You then choose your cadence. And what I like to suggest with that is, we're not going to, what's that quote? We will fall, our highest goals will fall on our lowest system. So if you're saying you choose twice a month, twice a week for the next 3 months, create that diary meeting, that notification
Mm.
in your calendar. Choose a Monday or a Tuesday, beginning part of the week, and then a Friday or a Saturday, just end part of the week. And I'm going to talk about that in terms of the different times of the week. And put a diary, a recurring meeting with yourself, and call it something inspiring. The most important thing is that I want you to feel inspired to be on LinkedIn. I know right now we're coming off a low base where you're not, you want to vomit every time you open LinkedIn. So we've got a
No,
long
I'm
way
very
to go.
excited. I'm very
Excited
excited about
vomit.
getting my business there. No, I don't
But
want to look at my personal profile or any of those connections, but very excited to
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 do that.
have my business there and make new connections with
Yes.
the relevant target audience. So
So then
yes.
call that diary meeting with yourself, LinkedIn, call it excited to make new connections. Call it something that's going to inspire you because this notification is going to come up twice a week for the next 3 months,
Mm.
every single. So, and I think that starts getting us into the right mindset of, I'm excited to be here and whatever. So that's just a small tip because things like passwords. Choose a LinkedIn password that actually inspires you too, because we're going to type it in all the time. Well, you don't actually. You log in once and it stays the same. The reason why I talk about different cadence and different time zones, and people, you'll hear this a lot on social media. When's the best time to post on Instagram? When's the best time to post on LinkedIn? It entirely depends on your geographic region and who you are connected to and what time zone you are in. However, Monday, Tuesday, like the early part of the week, if you think of a weekday starting and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday being the intense time of a week when people have a lot of things going on, LinkedIn has a very different algorithm to me than a Friday, Saturday, even Sunday part of the week. And what I mean by that is I've noticed that the people who engage with my content over the weekend are very different to the people that engage with my content earlier in the week. Can I control that? No, only insofar as I can put content out. You won't know until you start to see the engagement. This is not about when is the best time to post. For me, anytime on LinkedIn, as long as you are actually there and you're posting. So what I don't want to do is create the concern or the assumption that it has to be some magical formula of when to be there to get the best visibility, because that's not the case. The most important thing is you got to be there, and you got to be there when you're inspired, not when you feel like you must be there, because then that somehow translates through the algorithms. If you're inspired, you're going to be inspiring. Third piece of setting the strategy for LinkedIn so that it is just a tool, we're programming this tool to work for us, is most importantly, why do you want to be there? Now, I know that you've shared with me that you want to be there because your ideal clients are there and it's time to start sort of paying attention to them in the LinkedIn space, but everybody has a unique why. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, we're entrepreneurs. We all want to be there to generate more business. But I would like you to even think about something that is a little bit bigger than yourself. And Ingrid, I know that your message often within the entrepreneurial space is to equip women to be able to have the resources to do what they want with people that they love and respect so that they can shift and change the world. Your why of being in business is something so bigger than just the work that you do. And I want you to consider that and write it down for LinkedIn, because it is overwhelming. As much as I'm going to try to make it less, remove the vomit factor and still make it more fun, it is still going to be overwhelming. But if we come with why we want to be there in the first place and we're clear about that, it starts to reduce that overwhelm. My why for LinkedIn at the moment is LinkedIn is the window to my world that allows me to connect globally and share my message for greater good and impact. Now, when I first started on LinkedIn, everything that I did on LinkedIn was to get another client, but that just feels too limiting as a why. So think about that. Think about what your why is.
You know, Lisa, for me, it's actually so easy because my business purpose is so clear for me. I mean, at the heart of everything I do, it's really about fighting gender-based violence. But if you read my purpose on my website, I talk about the butterfly effect in business and how me being able to share my knowledge and expertise with entrepreneurs inspires them, they touch other people's lives, and there's this whole ripple effect. So when I think about that as LinkedIn being just another way that you can put that drop out there and have that ripple effect, that's really exciting for me. So yes, so that's what I'm seeing. I'm already inspired.
Perfect. And I love that you connected the butterfly effect. I mean, I know that this is your logo and I know that this has been part of your branding, but your why tends to then open up those avenues of what you want your profile to look like, what you want to say, how do you want people to feel. So we've got to start with why. Why do we want to be there? And it's no good just thinking about it in your head. Write it down. Write it down somewhere near your LinkedIn notes. Write it down near, add it to that calendar notification that you have for the next 3 months, twice a week. Put your why in there to remind you of why you want to be doing this. Because LinkedIn, Ingrid, to pick up on your point, LinkedIn is a little bit of a show mini, showmanship. I'm so great. I got this award, padded shoulders, corporate, wah, wah, wah. Yes, there's a lot of that. I mean, online media, there's a lot of that, whatever. To cut through that and to stand authentically, you ground yourself in why we're here. Why do we want to
Mm,
be here? What do we want from that? And
mm,
then added to
nice.
the why, I want you to consider and think of an affirmation that you say to yourself every time you come to that strategic, I'm now going to be doing my work on LinkedIn. And an affirmation is twofold. One, it protects you, it sort of like seals the intention of what you want to do, but it also helps remind you of that why, but it helps deal with things that might be coming up that create that overwhelm. So, for example, my affirmation at the moment when I open LinkedIn, when I go there, and this might to some of you sound very structured. It is. It's a tool. I'm not just randomly opening it and scrolling and whatever during the day. I'm programming the tool to work for me, and I'm working on it when I choose to in my 90-day cycle. My affirmation for LinkedIn at the moment is everything I see is meant for me. Everything I see is meant for me and nothing passes me by. Because I open my LinkedIn profile and they are red trigger notifications. The notifications is a red thing. The DM, there's da 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 da. And I start scrolling and it's like, oh my gosh, I've missed all this info. 5 hours later, I'm still on it. So I don't go to the home feed when I open my LinkedIn profile. I go elsewhere, which I'm going to show and teach you. A nice affirmation for somebody who's new, who has that level of kind of what's the point of LinkedIn and vomit factor, could be, Ingrid, every moment I spend on the platform moves me closer to my why and works for me. Or
Oh, I love
every
that.
minute counts. Every action I take counts and shifts me closer to knowledge learning or what have you. So your unique why and your LinkedIn affirmation, which sounds very woo, but boy, oh boy, let's use woo when it comes to this huge, massive platform with 1 billion users. 1 billion users. Now, I mean, it's phenomenal. So and then the last piece about the programming. So setting this, programming it as a tool, 90-day function. You choose your cadence, setting a why, and choosing an affirmation, putting it in your diary, having those associated. And the very last piece about knowing that it is just a tool and we work the programming is breaking the tool down into 3 key areas. So let's call these performance areas, for want of a better word. And the first performance area is how do I look? Or how do you look? And that's profile optimization. That's where we're going to cover everything, Ingrid, about all the functions and everything you need profile optimization. The second operating area of LinkedIn is who am I connected to? Now, who are you connected to are your contacts and your network, and we'll get into detail about that because you can have community and you can have audience. And also in who am I connected to? We're going to talk about as an entrepreneur all of the different functions like events and all these different things and newsletters that you can create to find who you need to be connected with. So who am I connected to? There's deep strategies there that support entrepreneurs who want to find their ideal clients. And then the third operating function or area or training, for want of a better word, of our course is what am I saying? Which is essentially your communication strategy on LinkedIn. Now,
Yeah.
we are going to cover 3 key ways to communicate on LinkedIn. The first way to communicate on LinkedIn is by creating your own content. Now, that could be a post, that could be an article, that could be a newsletter, that could be an event, that could be a video. It's you putting something out from your own origination, creating your
Okay.
own content, and that's communicating. The second way of communicating on LinkedIn is commenting on someone else's content. Now, the LinkedIn algorithm, as of 2025, recognizes that a long form comment, so I don't just mean nice post or a reaction, a like, a heart, a funny, a curious, I mean an actual typed comment, a long form comment, the algorithm on LinkedIn recognizes equally as you creating your own content. And
Okay.
LinkedIn did this because it wanted to create connection. And around COVID, when everybody was spending so much time, during the global pandemic, when everyone was spending so much time online, suddenly LinkedIn realized that if people were just speaking from their profile and posting their own content and not commenting on other people, they were going like they were hitting virality. They were going, millions of views and likes and whatever, but they weren't commenting on other people's content. And that's where LinkedIn then changed the algorithm. So you kind of want to do both. And we're going to talk
Okay.
about that comment strategy. And then the third most important way of communicating on LinkedIn is in the DMs, which is what they call messaging. So the language on LinkedIn, we refer to it as DMs, but it's actually the messaging system. Now, the one thing to know about in the DMs is nobody else can see that except the person you're messaging. So it's like a messaging the DMs on Instagram. But because nobody else can see it, it's where people tend to abuse it and overuse it and spam and you name it. Like the notice board of the internet, you get everybody there, right? You'll get
Mm.
somebody trying to sell something, spam something, and coerce you into goodness knows what. So the DM strategy is a very important part of the content and the comment strategy, but it's one that we as entrepreneurs need to be most thoughtful about. And that's where the why affects everything that we say on LinkedIn, that really it comes into play there. That's where we really want to hold the essence of why we want to be on LinkedIn in the DMs, because I tend to refer to the DMs as the snake pit of LinkedIn. It's like anybody, it's like free for all. Anyone's going to say anything. I've had it all in the DMs, like from spammy, scammy, you name it. And your potential ideal client has too. So you've got to cut across that noise and stand above the snake pit and be seen as trustworthy and not spammy. And we've got a little strategy for that. So these
Okay.
three key performance areas: how do I look? What am I saying? So how do I look? Who am I connected to? And what am I saying? Those three areas each have their own unique strategy, which we'll work through. And I'm hoping that at this point you're feeling less overwhelmed, although I acknowledge that in breaking LinkedIn down to three different areas, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that, there were three different performance areas, but at least there are three specific areas. It is a tool. We're going to take the programming of each area step by step. We're going to base it on what you need, why you want to be on LinkedIn. You've set your cadence for the next 90 days. And everything that we do and take you through is about supporting you to fulfill why you want to be there in the first place. How does that sound?
No, it sounds amazing. Amazing. It's very, very clear. And thank you for breaking it down into clear chunks. So all
All the
good. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah,
all the
sounding
bits
good.
all the bits and pieces. Fantastic. Great. So I'm going to share my screen. I've logged into your LinkedIn profile ahead of the call. And just let me know, Ingrid, can you see your LinkedIn profile? Is it visible?
All good? Yes, I can see it
Okay,
clearly. Thanks.
fantastic. So we are now looking at how do I look? The first part of LinkedIn optimization, the first operating area, which is your profile. And the three questions that I want you to hold in your mind as I'm taking you through the various functions and clicking through all the, how do you look in LinkedIn? I want you to hold these three questions in your mind. And they're not absolute questions, and they don't have to be answered necessarily in the singular. You could have multiple answers for all of them, but just consider these three things. Number one, who do you want to connect with? Number two, how do you want them to feel when they look at your profile? And number three, what action do you want them to take? And I just find
Yeah.
that those kind of top strategy questions are good to just hold in our mind as we start populating them. Now, remember, we're just talking about the next 90 days. So you might
Okay.
say, but Lisa, I want to connect with this person and this person and this. Just pick one type of person you want to connect to in the next 90 days. How do you want them to feel when they come to your profile? Obviously, you want them to feel excited, impressed, willing to exchange money for your service, what, but just flesh that out. And what action do you want them to take? Do you want them to download a freebie? Do you want them to book a call? Do you want them to give you their email address? What part of interacting with your entrepreneurial business do you want them? What step do you want them to take? And one of those answers could just at the beginning be, I want them to send me a message on LinkedIn, which in
Mm.
itself can be an action. And then that helps you with the various functions. So let's get started with you, Ingrid. So what we're looking at now is your personal profile, and you don't have the premium account yet. So anybody else who doesn't have a premium account would be looking at this too. Now, up at the top, just to sort of some basic explanation, you have this super cool search tab or search bar, which searches in LinkedIn. This is a unique search in LinkedIn. Then you have the home tab. Now, you see what I mean about the psychology behind getting us to spend all our time on the home tab. The home tab automates with a little red button that makes you want to go, oh, what's going on in the home tab? Trigger, let me go there. No, 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 LinkedIn, forget about your red notifications. We're not going to listen to you. So the
Down that
home tab,
rabbit hole. Yeah.
yeah, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole because trust me, when you do, suddenly the feed starts moving and then 5 hours have gone. Then the next thing is your network. Now, your network is the people that you are connected to. LinkedIn also have this thing called followers. So just to explain that, what that is. Somebody who you're connected to in your network is a primary connection. However, there is a limit to you only being able to have 30,000 primary connections, which seems like a heck of a lot of people. But I mean, when in my previous corporate career, when I wasn't using LinkedIn correctly, I kind of maxed it out a couple of times. And then I'd have to go and delete a bunch of connections. So what LinkedIn have done for influencers and people with big followings is they've created the thing called the follow button. So you can follow someone, which means you see their content, you see what they've posted, but you're not connected to them. Now, the thing about connections on LinkedIn is when you and I are connected, and you are then in my first degree connection, I can email you, I can DM you unlimited, and I can comment on your stuff. The main difference is that I can send you unlimited messages. Second degree connections are somebody that you and I have in common. So, Ingrid, you and I are first degree connections, and then you have you know somebody who I don't know. That person is a second degree connection to me. And then LinkedIn also talk about third degree connections, but don't worry about that right now because that basically means somebody who's not a first degree and not even a second degree. So that's the sort of breakdown of my network. When we deal with who are you connected to in that segment, I'm going to break down specific strategies around what the difference, why you should follow someone, why you should connect with someone. So we'll deal with all of that. For now, I just want you to know what it means. Then LinkedIn have this cool little suitcase, which is the job section. And that's where people can post jobs and people can search jobs and look for jobs. There is some relevance for that from an entrepreneur's perspective. And I'm going to explain that to you when we get to this open to bit here. But for now, I'm just covering it in the toolbar. Then you get the little 3 dots in the message bubble. That's messaging. So they actually call the function messaging. Notifications, thanks LinkedIn, trigger warning, you've got one notification and it makes you want to go and click on it. Don't. You don't need to, because it'll be something a little bit bizarre. And then it's you. It refers to your profile as you. And if we click on the drop down of you, it gives you settings and privacy, help, language, and then it gives you a sort of shortcut of posts and activities, your company page, and job posting account, and then you can sign out. Now, once you log into LinkedIn on the desktop, I highly recommend that this training you run through your desktop, but also have LinkedIn on your phone. Don't sign in and out each time, because it's a real pain. LinkedIn is very good in protecting access. They're one of the most trusted social media accounts, so you can stay signed in on your desktop and you don't have to worry about being hacked or anything. Something to note here about the settings and privacy is that there's a whole bunch of settings and privacy functions, which we will go through, but it takes quite a bit of time to show you what you need to have set and what you don't. I want to get into profile optimization first. We're going to come back to the settings and privacy, Ingrid, for you to know what that is. The next part about the toolbar here is that you have this unusual kind of little, looks like this sort of Google block thing, and it says for business. Now, if you click onto that, here's some interesting things. Now, again, LinkedIn's very clever and it puts up a whole bunch of stuff. My advice to anybody who's brand new is just click through all of these functions. Hiring on LinkedIn costs a bomb, but click onto it to see what it does, what it is. Selling on LinkedIn is about creating ads on LinkedIn. They are way more expensive than Facebook Meta ads right now. So I've yet to hear of any entrepreneur who's benefited from that. Most of the ads you'll see on LinkedIn are big enterprise ads. So it'll be some massive big petrochemical company that's selling something. Then they talk about posting jobs and advertising. So that's mainly what it is. Learn with LinkedIn is really, really important. I want everybody, and I want you to click through onto this and look at what the Learning LinkedIn courses are. It actually opens up a whole world of information. And then they've also got it here duplicated as learning. So this down the side here is exactly what is here, but they've just got it in headlines. The important thing here, though, at the bottom of the business for business tab is this is where you create a company page. This is where you would go to create your company page for your entrepreneurial business. So that's a key thing in the whole headline section of LinkedIn.
Perfect. Got it.